A lot going on in Major League Baseball. B and I have been out in Ashburn day after day after day, but we wanted to kind of catch up with baseball as the trade deadline is right here. And obviously for the Washington Nationals, that's going to mean some decisions need to be made. Mark Zuckerman has been covering this team.
Mark's the best.
In my mind, since its inception at MASN Sports. Mark Zuckerman joins us now on the Rude Guest Hotline. Zuck, what's up, dude? How are you, bud?
Hey, guys. It's going to be a busy 24 hours, I have a feeling.
Oh, boy. All right, so that's what we wanted to talk about. Obviously, the trade deadline, we're right up against it. I've seen some tweets about McKenzie Gore and the Nationals are listening. What do you think is realistic over these next 24 hours from kind of veterans they're going to ship out to some of these really good young players?
Yeah, I mean, you start with the guys who are on the expiring contract. So Josh Bell, Michael Soroka, who pitched last night, Kyle Finnegan, who has pitched better the last several times after a really rough stretch there. A couple of relievers like Andrew Chafin, even Luis Garcia, the reliever, not the second baseman, who's only been here a little while, but has done really well, and he's a veteran on a one-year deal. You figure, if not all of them, most of them are probably going to go because they're not part of the long-term plan. They could have some value to contenders. You're not going to get a lot in return for most of them, I wouldn't think. It's not like any of them have just had fantastic seasons, but Soroka will bring you something because he can start. Finnegan, he may not be a closer on a contending team, but he's a fairly reliable an experienced bullpen arm, so that probably brings you something. Josh Bell's gotten hot lately, so that probably helps you some. So I think those are the obvious ones that you look at. And then you go into that next category, which is players who are under control beyond this year. And that's where you start wondering, would they move a Nathaniel Lowe, who has a year to go? Would they even move a Luis Garcia Jr., the second baseman, if they don't feel like he fits into the long-term plan? They have an outfield logjam. Would teams be interested in an Alex Call or a Jacob Young for their defense and their base running? And then the big fish, McKenzie Gore. There's plenty of interest from contending teams in him. It really boils down to, is Mike DiBartolo willing to move his ace, who has 2 more years of control? How much would he ask for in a trade? And then on top of that all, would ownership give him the approval to make that kind of trade? Because that's a big one that you've got to be able to justify to your fan base why you're trading away supposedly one of your core young pieces.
Do you think that's a possibility, though?
I think it's possible. I'm not going to say it's likely, though. I think there's a lot of hurdles to get there. And I take Mike DiBartolo at his word when he said to us, he'll listen when people are calling, and they've been calling for sure, but he's not actively trying to move Gore. Now, that said, somebody calls in and they say, hey, we're going to give you, these 3 top 50 prospects in baseball for an ace who has 2.5 years of control, then you might have to say, okay, that is more valuable to us, and we're willing to do that. I think that's what it boils down to. Will anyone cross that threshold, whatever it is, that's willing to give up something of real consequence? If you make that move, you've got to be able to sell it to everybody, your fan base, the ownership, everybody, and say, I had to do it. This was too good to pass up. Is that going to happen? I'm going to say probably not, but I didn't think that the Soto deal was going to happen 3 years ago, and look at what A.J. Preller offered from the Padres, and in the end, as hard as that was, they got 3 All-Stars out of it and a couple more prospects we may see someday. So it's not going to be that big of a package, but if they offer something that it's clear that, hey, this is too good to pass up, then I think you have to at least acknowledge that possibility.
Talking with Mark Zuckerman here on the Rude Guest Hotline. Rude makes the most reliable HVAC products in the DMV. You can give Mark a follow at Mark Zuckerman. Also, make sure you're checking out the Nats Chat podcast. The Gore stuff is really interesting. He seems like maybe league-wide kind of the biggest possible piece that could get moved. Why is there so much conversation around Gore and not around Abrams?
I think it has to do with where they are in their service time, I guess, at this point, where McKenzie Gore is 2+ years away. That's the same spot that Soto was in. Abrams has another year after that. And, what it boils down to is this. If you're the Nationals, and particularly DiBartolo now, and you see how things have gone this year and has not gone anywhere close to the way it was planned, And if you believe that this team really isn't going to be in a position to win big, and I'm not just talking about like have a winning record, but like challenge for a title before Gore can become a free agent after the 2027 season, then that's why you would consider the possibility. Whereas Abrams, you got him to 2028. You would certainly hope by then things have turned around. It also boils down to whatever feeling you may have that he might stay in the long run. Gore is a Scott Boras client.
Right.
And we know how this usually works. It's not impossible, but chances are he's going to take it all the way to free agency before even considering signing. Abrams is not with Boras, so maybe as a guy that you could in theory sign long-term, you're less concerned about that. You never say never in that stuff, but I think that's the difference with Gore versus Abrams. It's the difference in years to go before they can become a free agent and, quite honestly, who their agent is.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. With DeBartolo in this role, and, I mean, he's been in this role for, 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Do you have any sense of if he wants to press the gas and try to be the architect of a long-term new rebuild and he can really get his fingerprints on it? Or is he kind of in like just a caretaker situation where he's just got to get this to the finish line this year and then who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, I think that's the fascinating part of it all. I'm sure he, having worked here for a dozen years and worked his way up the ladder, I know he's got plenty of thoughts and ideas of what he would love to do if he had the opportunity. But you're still an interim GM, and you don't know for sure that you're getting the job long term. And if his goal is to get the job long term, you've got to be making decisions now that convince ownership you are the right choice for it. So I think that's why when it comes to, Gore and those kind of players who are here beyond this year, you have to be really careful with that and not make these gigantic decisions that affect the club years down the road when you don't know yourself if you're going to be here years down the road. The short-termers, that's a different story. So I think that is definitely a part of the equation, and it's a tricky position that he's in. Yeah. Yes, he's worked with the Lerner family. Yes, he probably has a leg up in some way because of his experience here, but he's not guaranteed the job. And I think at minimum, they're going to interview other candidates for it when the season's over. So he has an opportunity to make a case for himself, but how do you do that? Is it bold and let's say, hey, we're tearing it down and starting over, or is it more calculated? Here's a savvy move here, a savvy move there. And I still believe that this team can be a winning team with this core group together if you just give me the resources to do that next year.
You better be sitting down with the ownership and talking to them about the possibilities, get their feel and go do it. Because sitting there not knowing what to do and doing nothing, that's the quickest way to get let go.
No, exactly. And that's why you have to be active in some ways. So, we already saw them trade Ahmed Rosario the other day. That's why I said I think all of those players on the expiring contracts, if not all of them, almost all of them, it would make perfect sense to move them. So you do want to show them what you're capable of doing. And, when a season doesn't go the way you want, can you turn those short-term assets into long-term assets? That's what the job really is. So I expect him to be aggressive in that regard. I think it's just the real question is how bold is he willing to go and how much will they let him do that kind of thing under the circumstances. This isn't Mike Rizzo, who already has a lot of capital built up and knows, at least prior to this year, that he's making decisions that he's going to be around to see the benefits of. If you're DeBartolo, you don't know that for certain.
And then in the meantime, you've got a team still playing games, right? In Houston, and it's just really tough to know kind of what they've got. How are they responding kind of coming out of the break where a lot has changed? Definitely played some good baseball in Minnesota. The bats got hot. Got a chance to maybe take a series today, I think. I mean, how are the players holding up in all this?
That first week after it all happened, there was still some shock to it, and I think there was an adjustment period. They came back from the All-Star break, and I feel like they did kind of flip a switch there and said, all right, this is the new norm for us now. Let's go out and do what we can do. And they've played better. They've won 2 series in a row. They have a shot at another one today against a good team. And you do have your ace. McKenzie Gore is scheduled to start today for all we know now. That could change, I guess, but my guess is he will start. So they're actually in a decent position, and they're doing this with James Wood in the first real slump of his career as well. Let's point that out, that they've actually been able to win some games. They've done it by getting better pitching for the most part. So I think it's stabilized. Once you get through these next 48 hours, and there's going to be a good amount of change and a lot of faces gone, and they're going to have to replace them with AAA players, or perhaps in some of these trades they acquire big league players. This roster could look pretty different on Friday. And now that you're past that, now you've got exactly 1/3 of the season to go, 54 games after today. There's going to be a different kind of motivation, and they're going to have to summon that up in what is now, a losing season, but an opportunity for whoever is here, all the young guys especially, to make their case for why they should be part of the plan moving forward.
Hey, last thing from me, Zuck. What's the deal with Dylan Cruz? I feel like we were told the injury wasn't that bad, and I feel like we haven't seen him in months.
We haven't.
So he is just past the 2-month mark, and he did last night for the first time started his rehab assignment with Rochester, AAA team. They're playing in Charlotte. He played 4 innings. He got 2 at-bats, got hit by a pitch, but everything appears to be fine there. I think, you miss that much time, and they were very careful with it, but with oblique injuries, I think you see this all the time. It ends up being longer than you think, because it's so easy to re-injure that with just one minor movement that they wanted to be 100% sure. And certainly in the state that they're in this season, why take that chance? So he's now got to make up time for all the games that he missed. And so I think he'll spend the week at AAA. And if at the end of that he's playing 9 innings and he's feeling good, I think we could see him back in the lineup in the big leagues a week from now. It's been frustrating for everyone, himself included. The team was better with him in there, and they expect to be better with him back. But this wound up taking a good chunk of time. By the time he comes back, it's about 2.5 months. That's almost half a season that he ends up missing because of this.
That's crazy. Mark, I know you got to run. Thank you for the time, man. We appreciate you.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
That's our friend Mark Zuckerman from MASN Sports. You can read all his work at masnsports.com. Check out the Nats Chat podcast, or give him a follow at Mark Zuckerman. Going to be a busy 24 hours for the Washington Nationals. I'm curious what the heck they do with Gore, because that's obviously a big piece, and we'll
That's
see.
what they can get pieces for.
All right.